Hi everyone, Senator Jason Rarick here at the Capitol, and another issue that probably want to talk about a little bit. You've heard me talk many times in the past about our energy future here in Minnesota, and I guess the reason I'm looking at talking about it right now is we're just kind of on the tail end of one of the situations that we continue to talk about, Senator Matthews and myself many times, is this idea as we're trying to move towards the goals, and again, it's not goals anymore. It was put into state statute that we need to be carbon free by 2040. But everyone, the weather that we have been experiencing here in Minnesota with these sub-zero temperatures over extended periods of time, these are the conditions that we are talking about that become the struggle in accomplishing the goal the way so many people believe we should go. Because wind and solar are not the answer during this type of weather. But yet, all we have to look at is what's happening just south of us right now. And we're hearing the stories about how many people are out of power, thus out of heat. And I think that's something that too many times the focus gets lost when we talk about that. It's like we think, well, it's just the electricity, it's just our lights. The vast majority of heating systems around the country require electricity in order to operate. So when we have this extreme weather, and if it takes down the electricity, people don't have heat. And that's what we have to think about, folks. When we have these sub-zero temperatures, wind shuts down. They cannot operate in those low temperatures. And then when we go into the nighttime hours, when the temps even drop more, solar goes away. We have to have enough capacity to replace those systems when they're not operating. And once again, I've talked about this many times before, but if we refuse in this state to repeal the moratorium on nuclear energy so that our utilities can look at that as an option for replacing the wind and solar, we have zero way of making those 2040 standards. We have to be willing to step back from that and to say, look, natural gas is an option that allows us to ramp up and ramp down fairly quickly to meet demands. We also have to consider the fact that many of our small rural communities have diesel generators that in those worst case scenarios when the temperatures are at their lowest can come on to supplement and support the grid. Yet we all have heard the stories of MPCA in Minnesota demanding that they come off the system. Even though they're only going to operate for a few hours every year in the worst temperature conditions that are out there. These far left environmentalists just refuse to even consider them an option. And that's part of what we have to remember, folks. Again, I've been talking more lately again about compromise and a willingness to come to the middle. And I'm running into more and more folks from the Democrat side of the aisle who pushed for the 2040 bill that are realizing we can't get there without nuclear. But they're being met with such opposition from the far left on their side that we can't even still begin those conversations realistically. And so we have to be willing to look at what's happening right now and understand the realities that the closer and closer we get to 2040, having to meet these higher and higher standards of carbon free, our grid is at risk. And people's lives will literally be at risk when their heat goes off, when it's 30 below and 50 below wind chills. So I sure hope we're willing to reopen those discussions. Go back and say, look, These are goals, right? There are still people out there trying to tell us, well, these are goals. And there are off-ramps that utilities can use. But we've talked about it repeatedly as this went through the process. Those off-ramps are nearly impossible to achieve. So this isn't a goal. It's in state statute. It is a standard. And the PUC will be forced to tell these utilities, you must meet the standard. So we have to begin the discussion now about changing either the off-ramps, making them more attainable, or backing off the standard so that we can have what I've called for repeatedly, a cleaner, affordable, and reliable energy future here in Minnesota.